Hello and welcome back to Direct Capital channel. Welcome to today's video on the coronavirus and Bitcoin's price action. How is the coronavirus impacting Bitcoin and its price, and how will the coronavirus have an impact on what is yet to come, and that is the Bitcoin halving. We're also going to be looking at how the coronavirus and the Bitcoin halving are very good examples as to why markets are inefficient. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. Without further ado, let's dive right into the video. This is a chart that I shared in my Bitcoin investing strategy for 2020 video a few days ago. Essentially speaking, every time prior to the halving, we see a weekly higher low, this black uptrending line, we see this weekly higher low form on Bitcoin's price action prior to each of its halvings. And so far, so good. At the moment, we're seeing Bitcoin respecting this weekly higher low. Of course, I do expect that we might see some deviation in the form of wicks, whereby panic selling, extreme panic selling behavior and emotions simply just allow for sell side cascading momentum to drag and overextend price past this weekly high low. We've seen this sort of wicking past this level before as well, although we saw this on this occasion right over here, and of course we tend to see wicking at this weekly high low as well. So this is a characteristic that I'll be watching out for. So far, Bitcoin is respecting its key historical pre-halving price tendencies. All it has to do is to keep holding this weekly high low, and it will be all good for Bitcoin. But we have to bear in mind that the coronavirus, in part at least, has had an effect on this sell-off. Of course, many people are calling this a black swan event, which is influencing Bitcoin's price. But what we need to bear in mind, really, if we're thinking about the technicals, the crystal clear technicals for Bitcoin's price action, even though this might be a global outlier of an event in the form of coronavirus, and it might be a black swan event, in terms of Bitcoin's price action, this isn't a black swan event, because we're simply seeing that these technicals, these pre-halving price tendencies, are still being respected. So in terms of the price action, not a black swan event for Bitcoin, but we have to bear in mind that there is a lot of fear and uncertainty in the market. And in fact, if we look at the total mentions for the coronavirus against Bitcoin's price, so here we have in green the total mentions for coronavirus, and here we have Bitcoin's price action, we see an inverse correlation. So whenever we see an increase in total mentions in Bitcoin, or at least coronavirus mentions, we actually see a decline in Bitcoin's price action. But the correlation for Bitcoin and the coronavirus is actually 0.43. So that's quite a strong correlation. But the inverse relationship here is very clear. If mentions of coronavirus go to the upside, Bitcoin's price goes to the downside. If people talk less about the coronavirus, then of course Bitcoin's price goes up. And that just has to do with a lot of the uncertainty in the market. From a physiological standpoint, uncertainty registers as pain in the brain. So coronavirus is instigating a lot of that uncertainty in the minds of people, and they don't want to take on more uncertainty by exposing themselves to a risky asset such as Bitcoin. Because of course, Bitcoin is very volatile, especially in these extremely fearful market conditions, and people don't want any more uncertainty by taking on a volatile, high-risk investment, which is why we might be seeing this inverse correlation. But what we have to say is that this correlation doesn't have to be a lasting one, because after all, we're seeing a lot of global turmoil, a lot of turbulence across all markets, traditional or crypto. So there is a lot of fear, and that fear is going to be everywhere. And if we're in the epicenter of this outbreak that we're seeing coronavirus in the news, in the headlines all the time, and at the same time very fearful, so of course that's going to impact every aspect of life. The healthcare system, the global economy, the markets. Is going to have a direct impact immediately, but this correlation doesn't mean that it has to sustain itself over time. And Crypto Bullet makes a very good point in terms of talking about how the stock market collapse was overdue for a long time now, and it's only the coronavirus that's acting as a catalyst to now give us a reason how we should understand why there's a global recession coming. So the coronavirus might be a catalyst for a recession, but we have to bear in mind that this recession has been coming for a few years now. And though the average investor will now have a reason that the coronavirus is that catalyst, and of course the coronavirus is really impacting the global economy, but we have to also bear in mind that this recession won't happen immediately. It will extend over a period of a few years. So we have to bear in mind that this coronavirus is triggering a lot of these investors and a lot of fear and uncertainty. But at the same time, this is going to last a long time, while the coronavirus will probably start to become contained over time as well. It took China 2 to 3 months to start to contain the coronavirus, so it's just showing to us how they're already seeing a declining death rate. So it's very important to just understand that this coronavirus doesn't necessarily have to extend over time. So it's important to understand that if measures are taken, appropriate measures, then this coronavirus outbreak will be contained and controlled. And the World Health Organization is actually very adamant on the fact that even though we have a threat of a pandemic, we're more than capable of dealing with that. So if we look at Bitcoin's price action, definitely a lot of fear is associated with the coronavirus outbreak. But whatever the reason behind this latest sell-off, and it doesn't even have to be whether that's the Plus token scam sell-off. Some people are blaming this latest sell-off on that, whether that's coronavirus, whatever the case may be. We're still seeing this sell-off play into some key historical price tendencies for Bitcoin, which they showcase prior to the halvings. So far on a technical level, this is very good news because, of course, whatever the catalyst, Plus token scam or coronavirus, we're still seeing these tendencies become respected for Bitcoin. And like I said earlier on in the video, as far as Bitcoin's price goes, coronavirus isn't a black swan if we just look at the price action, because the price context is still very much bullish for Bitcoin. And it's only once we see a confirmed 1 week candle below the higher low of this increasing tendency, once we see a 1 week candle close below there, that's probably going to be a cause for concern on the technical level. That's when that black swan event would occur, because it would go against some very strong historical price tendencies prior to the halving. But at the same time, we have to bear in mind that extreme emotions and panic selling cause strong sell side momentum. So we might see some wicks below here, and it's these sort of deviations in price that can offer a very good financial opportunity for Bitcoin investors. So far so good on a technical level for Bitcoin, but at the same time we also have to see whether this will be an opportunity for Bitcoin to do well, because Bitcoin is in a bull market. It has around 60 days until its halving. So the amount of Bitcoin that gets created every 10 minutes will be cut in half. That's a significantly bullish event for the Bitcoin protocol that's pre-programmed. And every 4 years we tend to see this halving. So we tend to see significant price increases in Bitcoin's price after each and every halving. So it's this sort of news where the World Health Organization encourages use of contactless payments due to COVID. And of course, in this article by Roger Huang, he actually mentions that crypto may have an opportunity to become explored by the wider population, because of course China is disinfecting and destroying cash in infected areas. So this could be an opportunity for crypto to do well and gain that wider adoption slowly but surely. So though there is a global recession looming, Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto after the financial crisis of 2008, but this Bitcoin creation, the creation of Bitcoin, was an answer, a response to the financial crisis. It was developed as an alternative to do better in times of global turmoil and turbulence. So it's actually the very first chance for Bitcoin to truly showcase whether it's actually a very good alternative when we're seeing a lot of global turmoil and turbulence. So Bitcoin has its opportunity to shine, and that's the major question, whether it will do well going forward. But there's so much extreme emotion associated with the coronavirus that 38% of Americans wouldn't buy Corona beer under any circumstances. And there is no link between the virus and the beer, but this is just a very good example as to why markets are inefficient, because it just shows to us that even though the information out there is available for people to learn about the coronavirus on Wikipedia, whatever the website. And also to just know, we can easily find out that corona isn't a virus, it's actually a beer. People won't go ahead and gain access to that knowledge. They're just going to react emotionally and make these associations, which can actually damage the reputation of a business that's been around for a while. And in fact, a survey conducted by YouGov has found that people will be less likely to purchase Corona. And in fact, the consumer's intent to purchase Corona has fallen to its lowest level in 2 years. And that's a very big shame because there is no link, but yet this business, this Corona beer business, is being significantly affected, which is only a very good example of how markets are inefficient. And this ties in with what we're seeing with the Bitcoin halving, because we have this stock to flow model. Essentially speaking, Bitcoin's price tends to fluctuate in and around the stock to flow model. And every time we see a halving, so the next halving is going to be around here, roughly speaking, we tend to see the stock to flow model go to the upside, which essentially just showcases to us that the supply will be decreased, it will be cut in half. The Bitcoin supply is going to be cut in half, which is why we're seeing that the stock to flow is increasing, and Bitcoin's price, historically speaking at least, has been able to track this stock to flow quite well. So the stock to flow is assuming that we will see a breakout towards the upside. We're going to see new all-time highs, exponential rallies after the halving, and of course this ties in with my Bitcoin halving everything you need to know article. So even though my article is out there, the stock to flow model is out there, it's available, it's publicly available, anybody can read it, we have to bear in mind that we can't consider the halving to be priced in when less than 1% of people in the world own Bitcoin, even less know what the Bitcoin halving is, and even less than that know the effect that the Bitcoin halving has on Bitcoin's price. So the halving can't be priced in if most people don't even know about it, and this just showcases that markets are inefficient. Even though we have my article out there, the stock to flow model is out there and it's publicly available, anybody can read it, we still know that most people that have yet to invest in Bitcoin, and even Bitcoin users themselves, they actually don't know about these fundamental changes to the Bitcoin protocol, which means that they will probably invest emotionally later on. They're more likely to FOMO and panic sell. They will react emotionally to Bitcoin's price in the same way that we're seeing people react emotionally to the coronavirus and things associated with the coronavirus, even if it might be Corona beer, which has nothing to do with this virus. So essentially speaking, the way that a market can become more efficient is by learning more information about that market. And this information might be out there, but people are just fundamentally emotional, and we will make emotional decisions. We're going to behave irrationally, whether that's towards the virus or whether that's towards Bitcoin's price action, even though Bitcoin's price action tends to rally after the halving. People will panic sell prior to the halving, and they're probably going to FOMO in after the halving to chase the uptrend. So it's very important to just seek this information out so that you can become less emotional, whether that's about Bitcoin's price action or the coronavirus itself. And when it comes to the coronavirus, we tend to see the highest death rate in the older population, and these people tend to have underlying medical conditions as well. So it is the older population that tends to suffer the most in terms of death rate, because of course people under 40 or even 50, this death rate is smaller, much smaller. So it is important to know that. But let's compare this to the flu, because we tend to see very small mortality rates in the flu. And of course, I'm presenting this chart because many people say that the coronavirus is just another flu. But of course, if we actually compare the death rate by age for the seasonal flu against the coronavirus, we're actually going to see that the coronavirus has a death rate that is 20 times larger than the death rate of the seasonal flu. So it just goes to show that the coronavirus isn't another flu. It really is a little bit more serious than that if the death rate is 20x. At least when we're comparing these age groups over here, this is a 20x over the seasonal flu in terms of death rates. And even for the seasonal flu, 0.83% is the death rate for 65 plus, for the 65 plus age group. We're seeing this death rate for 65 plus is much, much higher in the coronavirus, which just goes to show that this just isn't another flu. And that just showcases how markets are inefficient as well, because people tend to either become very emotional about something, or people start to discard it and say it's just like the flu, there's nothing to be worried about. But the answer here is to become a bit more alert, but at the same time to maintain a level-headed approach and how we can become a little bit more prepared in dealing with this virus altogether. So 2 weeks ago we had 3,000 deaths this year from the coronavirus, and we already have 4,100. So of course we have to bear in mind that seasonal flu has more deaths. That's definitely the case, because here we have 78,000 seasonal flu deaths this year from 2 weeks ago, and of course this number has increased to 92,000, but we have to bear in mind that the flu has been around for a long time, decades, maybe even centuries. The flu has been around for a long time, whereas coronavirus has only just appeared near the end of November, around mid-December in China. So we're not only seeing that the mortality for the coronavirus is 10 to 50 times higher, 3 to 12 times as many people get infected compared to the flu. And this is just a very good description as to how COVID-19 is not like the flu at all. One person will infect up to 4 times as many others, so the R0 is much higher for coronavirus compared to the flu. And another example of this is that the coronavirus can be transmitted via hard surfaces for more than a week, because we see that COVID-19 survives 9 days on hard surfaces, whereas the flu only survives for 1 day on these surfaces. So while this is a highly infectious virus, it's very important to bear in mind that even though loads of confirmed cases are in China, Italy, Iran, there are also a lot of recoveries, specifically in China. We're actually seeing a lot of decline in death rates. The world will recover from this, but like Nicholas Merton has mentioned, the dominoes are settling in. The virus has stunted global business and leisure travel. Global imports and exports slow in an already weak environment, and of course this shrinks already low demand for oil globally because producers are going bust. Less people go out due to less available income because of course workers get sick, specifically in China and South Korea, so factories can't continue their supply, and this is affecting businesses such as Apple, where the supply from China isn't as high as the demand from Apple for certain technologies. So it's very important to know that this all compounds into a possible recession, which has been a long time coming, but this coronavirus may very well be that catalyst that spurs that recession onwards. And the price of oil is a testament to that. There was a 27% drop yesterday in oil's price, as there's going to be a big oil output hike where essentially the supply of oil is going to increase, and as a result the price of oil is going to decrease further. So in any case, though there is a lot of fear in the markets around the world, we have to bear in mind that so far Bitcoin is respecting its key historical price tendencies prior to its halving. And every time we see Bitcoin rally after the halving, we tend to see exponential rallies. So it's very important to just bear in mind that though the fear is palpable right now, these emotions won't matter much in the future when Bitcoin most likely rallies post-halving. So it's all about managing your psychology until then. And of course, the technicals for Bitcoin need to hold up. That weekly high or low has to keep holding for Bitcoin's historical price tendencies to continue being respected as Bitcoin approaches the halving. So if Bitcoin is a higher time frame investment for you, don't fall prey to lower time frame emotions. All of this extreme fear and panic selling that is going on are short-term fluctuations in price, but most likely Bitcoin is going to be a very strong alternative going into its halving and as we move through this global recession, which will most likely last a few years at least. So of course in the markets, extreme fear precedes financial opportunity. So if this fear is so extreme where many people are saying that this time it's quite different, we're seeing a lot of talks about a recession, we're seeing the coronavirus really being spread around the world and being a global pandemic, this time might be different. We might actually see Bitcoin's price action dip even lower and forego its historical price tendencies. Many people are believing that. So the fear is really strong. It really is strong. Just imagine how immense the financial opportunity that lies ahead truly is. And on that note, that's about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider dropping a like and of course subscribe for more videos like this in the future. I'm more than happy to be pumping out content on a daily basis for your enjoyment and also for you to find value in it. So please consider dropping a like, subscribe for more videos in the future. I'm Rekt Capital. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak soon.